Welcome back, boys and girls, to our online lesson. Now remember, if at any point during this video you need to stop it or rewind to make sure you understand, please do so. Tomorrow we're going to be doing a really fun activity which will be much easier for you if you understand the content. So please don't be afraid to stop or rewind whenever you need to. Also tonight we're going to be taking notes on our static electricity balloon. Down here on the string, there are 4 note cards that are going to have spaces for you to fill in. You're going to fill them in as you go. Remember, feel free to pause. And then you're going to tuck them in the back, right here, into your balloon and bring it to class tomorrow. So, have you ever walked across a carpet, shuffled your feet, rubbed them on the ground, and then touched somebody, maybe a sibling or a mom or a dad, and felt a shock? Well, that shock is called static electricity, and today we're going to talk about really what that means and how it works and how we can use that to manipulate objects. So, I have a real balloon here, and we're going to really investigate what exactly is happening when my hair gets sticky to this balloon, when it attracts to the balloon. What really is going on to make that happen? We're going to find out. So we have to remember back to a couple weeks ago first when we talked about atoms and protons and electrons. And remember that protons have a positive charge and electrons have a negative charge. And balloons and any other object generally has a neutral charge before any kind of action happens. So before we rub it to my hair, it's got a neutral charge. Now when we're writing the charge of an object, we write it like this. If it's a neutral charge, like the balloon, we would write it with a proton and an electron. This is how we draw the charge for neutral. It means there's 1 proton to 1 electron. And as you can see, I've drawn a couple on here. Now count with me how many protons this balloon has. 1, 2, 3, 4. And how many electrons? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 protons and 4 electrons, and that means that there's the same number. There is an equal amount of protons and electrons. That means that this balloon does not have a charge. It is neither positive or negative. It is neutral. But if we took away one of the charges, take away one of the electrons, now there are 4 protons, but only 3 electrons. So there are more protons than electrons, which means it has a positive charge. If I were to take away one of the protons, there are now more electrons than there are protons, which means it has a negative charge. So remember, this is how we write charges, and I put this here just for you to see what's really happening. So right now the surface of this balloon has a neutral charge. It is neither positive nor negative. My hair, likewise, which I'm not going to draw on, has a neutral charge. There are the same amount of protons as there are electrons. But when 2 surfaces that are not good conductors, remember a couple weeks ago when we talked about conductors, they are materials that can pass electricity through it. Remember, some objects are better conductors than other materials, and plastic in this balloon and my hair are both not very good conductors of electricity. So when 2 objects like the balloon and my hair, which are both not good conductors, rub together, something happens, obviously, to make my hair stick like it does. But what is happening? Well, I'll tell you. As I'm rubbing my hair, some of the electrons from my hair is being rubbed off onto the balloon. So I'm going to draw those on for you. I'm going to draw those onto the balloon for you to see just what's happening. Some of the electrons from my hair have rubbed off onto the balloon. So now, as you can see, I added 4 more electrons. So there are now 8 electrons and only 4 protons. And the 8, that means that this balloon now has a negative charge. Why? Because there are more electrons than there are protons. So it is negatively charged. Now, if some of the electrons left my hair, because there used to be an equal amount, remember, it was neutrally charged, but if some of them left my hair and went onto the balloon, then that means my hair has more protons than it does electrons, because some of them left and went onto the balloon. So that means my hair is now positively charged. So remember, the balloon is negatively charged and my hair is positively charged, and they stick together. Now why is that? Why does a negatively charged balloon make my positively hair stick to it? Well, that's because, remember, this is something you need to write down in your notes, that 2 objects that have opposite charges attract to each other, like my hair and the balloon, but 2 objects that have the same charge repel each other. And that's what static electricity is. It's the accumulation or buildup of more electrons or protons in an object. So remember, when the electrons and the protons are the same amount, like they used to be before I drew on the balloon, then it's neutrally charged, it has no charge. But when it's got more protons than electrons, like my hair did after we rubbed it, it's positively charged. And when there are more electrons, like this balloon has right now, than there are protons, it's negatively charged. And that when two objects, like the balloon in my hair right now, have opposite charges, they attract to each other. And when two objects have the same charges, if they're both positive or both negative, they repel each other. Now repel is when a force pushes two objects away from each other. In the case of static electricity, when two objects have the same charge, they push each other away. And when two objects have different charges, they attract together, like my hair and the balloon. So, quickly let's talk about what we learned today. We learned that static electricity is the buildup of either protons or electrons on an object. We learned that each object can either be neutrally charged, which means it has the same amount of protons as it does electrons. It can be negatively charged, which means it has more electrons than protons. Or it can be positively charged, which means it has more protons than electrons. We also learned that when two objects have opposite charges, one negative and one positive, they come together, they attract. And we learned that when two objects have the same charge, both positive or both negative, they push each other away from each other. Now you know everything you need to know for tomorrow's experiment. We're going to have a lot of fun doing a magic trick with static electricity, and you guys are going to get to try it yourself. Remember, you have to finish filling in the rest of your balloon note cards, which are down on the string, stick them in your little pouch, and bring them to class tomorrow because they're really going to help us on our experiment. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.